This is Lorenzo, and this is the Training Routines Taxonomy video series, lesson number 17. It's on the 13th routine, the push track, which is a gymnastics routine focused on helping you develop pressing strength in the horizontal dimension. More specifically, it's been designed to help you achieve 2 of the 30 fitness benchmarks, the planche and the push-up, using only 5 exercises according to the MSP exercise protocol framework. Let's take a look. The push track is one of 7 upper body routines, and more specifically, it's one of 4 pressing vector routines. Speaking of routines, if we look to the left of our matrix, we can see the routine type. It is a track, which means it's a gymnastics routine. And as I said, it's focused on helping you develop pressing strength in the horizontal dimension. And together with the dip track, it has been designed to help you master one of the 9-dimensional skills, namely pushing endurance. To the right of our matrix, we have the exercise protocol, which we know has been designed according to a coherent training plan. And for a training plan to be coherent, it needs clearly stated objectives, strategies, and tactics. So let's take a look. The push track has been designed to help you achieve the planche, or a progression that you most care about achieving for the planche. This image here is an example of the straddle planche. And it is a benchmark of static straight arm strength. And while you may not care to achieve the full planche, you want to work on its progressions because it's still going to confer straight arm static strength benefits to you that will transfer to many other types of pressing movements. But should you ever reach the full planche, your goal as a recreational male athlete is to hold this position for at least 6 seconds. And for the recreational female athlete is to hold it for 3 seconds. For our second and final objective for the push track, we have the push-up itself, which is a benchmark of dynamic bent arm pushing strength. And your goal as a recreational male athlete is to be able to do 48 push-ups in one go. And for the girls, 24 push-ups in one go with good form. As for our strategy, both the planche and push-up require wrist extension and abduction mobility, as well as scapular-protraction stability. And finally, elbow extension and shoulder flexion strength. In other words, if we want to get good at the planche or the push-up, well, then we need to train the planche and the push-up. As for our tactics, or the ideal training environment or equipment that we need to implement our strategy, in terms of our training zone, we need an open training zone, nothing obstructing us. A ring training zone will be optional. As far as our equipment is concerned, we'll need a mat as well as parallettes, although they will also be optional. Okay, so with our objective and our strategy in mind, we now know why we're doing what we're doing, and our tactics in place, we're finally ready to see what the MSP exercise protocol framework looks like as it applies to the push track. So for our first 2 exercises in the mobility category, serving as our warm-up, we have the straight arm wrist series. For our second exercise, we have the straight arm scap shrug. In the stability category, following the 60-second rule. And for our third exercise, we have a straight arm static hold, the planche itself, as well as its progressions. For our fourth exercise, we have a bent arm static hold, the chest hover. And for our fifth and final exercise in the strength category, following the 30 rep rule, we have the push-up itself, as well as its various progressions. Taking a closer look at our first exercise, the wrist series in the mobility category, as we see it performed over here. The wrist series, as the name suggests, is a series of wrist mobilization exercises, such as wrist extension, wrist flexion, adduction, abduction, the purpose of which is twofold: to help us warm up the wrists for the pressing work to come, but it will also increase our wrist range of motion for our really demanding holds, such as our planches. And while not part of this routine, the wrist mobility series also serves to help us increase the wrist flexion required for our false grips in the muscle-ups. For the exact protocol, remember to download the Training Routines Taxonomy PDF. In there, I've got a link to a video to one of the best wrist series tutorials. Moving on to our second exercise, we have the straight arm scap shrug as we see it over here. Start with your hands directly underneath the shoulders, get into a hollow body position. So posterior pelvic tilt, engage the core, and then keeping the arms completely locked, you'll descend into a retracted position. So imagine pinching a pencil between the shoulder blades at the bottom, and then you're going to push yourself up as high as you can using the serratus anterior muscles. You'll feel it fire here. And you're going to be doing this for a total of 15 reps or roughly 1 minute. Moving on to our third exercise, we have the planche itself, a straight arm static hold, as we can see it over here. Start by attempting the tuck position with the hands directly next to the shoulders. You will then lean as far forward as you can, protract the scapula, lift the legs, keep it horizontal, and hold it for as long as you can. Remember, this is a 60-second hold, so pick a progression that will allow you to hold it for at least 10 seconds at a time. So if it's the tuck, as I'm doing here, you want to then do 6 sets of 10 seconds every minute on the minute. So for example, I do 10 seconds, I rest for 50 seconds, and on the next minute, I do my next 10 seconds, and I do that for 6 minutes. As I get stronger, I'll be able to do 15 seconds times 4 sets on the minute. So I'll do 15 seconds, rest 45 seconds, and then do that 4 times. Your goal is to work towards a solid 20-second hold for each progression before moving on to the next most demanding progression, which means you will then work towards being able to do 10 times 6 sets and eventually 15 times 4 sets, and then you can do 20 seconds for 3 sets. Again, for a complete list of all the planche progressions, please download the Training Routines Taxonomy PDF. In there, there's a link to a video by Andrew Strong, which is going to show you all the different progressions. Alternatively, just Google Andrew Strong planche. He's like the planche master, and you'll find many videos to show you which progression you should start on and which should be the next progression that you should start thinking about practicing. For our fourth and final exercise in the stability complex, we have a bent arm static hold. So whereas the planche is a straight arm static hold, we now have a bent arm static hold called the chest hover, as we can see it over here. As the name suggests, you will get into a push-up position, lower yourself down just before the chest touches the ground, and hold this for a total of 60 seconds. For the chest hover, we recommend starting off with 3 sets of 20-second holds. And again, as you build more endurance and confidence in that bottom position, you can try 2 sets of 30 seconds. And finally, you will try to do 1 set of 60 seconds straight. Together, the planche and chest hover, or our straight arm static hold and our bent arm static hold, serves as our stability complex, lasting no longer than 10 minutes, which helps us to fulfill the minimum scapular-protraction stability requirements that we need for safer, more efficient, and effective planches and push-ups. Okay, so now that we're done with our mobility and stability preparatory work, we're finally ready to integrate all these different elements into a more dynamic context, our functional movement, the push-up, according to the 30 rep rule. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at the standard push-up as we see it performed over here by my mother. Start by placing the hands directly underneath the shoulders. Get into a hollow body position, so slightly tilted pelvis in the posterior direction. You will squeeze the glutes, engage the core. As you come back down, your chest touches the ground. As you push back up, you will do so in a scapular protracted position. Now, if you don't have sufficient strength to do the standard push-up, definitely explore the beginner variations by dropping your knees to the ground, introducing elevation. But whatever progression that you're on, remember, your goal is to do a total of 30 push-ups using a progression that will allow you to make progress towards the benchmark of 24 standard push-ups for the ladies and 48 push-ups for the guys. Let's assume you can already do the standard push-up, but it works for any progression. Your goal is to do 30 reps for your workout. Now, we also know as a female, your benchmark goal is to be able to do 24 reps in a row. So the test train method states that you're going to attempt to do 24 for your very first set of 30. So let's say, for example, in set number 1, you only get to 15 reps, which means you're only 9 short from the benchmark. What you want to do is take note of this because you're only 9 away. You're working towards 24, but you still have 15 reps to do to complete your 30 rep quota. So in set 2, you could do, for example, another 10 reps. You'll have to take a break because now you're at a total of 25. And for set number 3, you complete the remaining 5 to get to your total of 30. So in summary, the push track is the wrist series, followed by the scap shrug, the planche and its progressions, the chest hover, and finally 30 push-ups according to the 30 rep rule, making sure that whatever progression you select, that you will make progress towards the benchmark and beyond.